Okay, so this is actually part one of many. The rest will be part two, three, whatever. But way I'm going to do this or try this is I'm going to spit this out, and then the next one, like my view on this particular subject is wide and varied, and so are lots of other people's, and you know, so I'm just going to start a conversation, and then somebody responds with a question, that'll be part two. Somebody responds with a criticism, that'll be part three. Somebody responds with a compliment, that'll be part four. If lots of people are responding, then I'll pick and choose, try to cover what everybody's asking. I'm not trying to spur a debate, not claiming to be an expert. Just got these ideas, and I keep waiting for somebody to put something out, like start heading in the direction where my head's at. And nobody is, and I'm like, damn, man, what the hell is wrong with everybody? Can't they see the obvious? And it's like, well, goddamn, man, get out there, put it out there yourself, it's like, because I'm not like, some big social guy or academic or anything. I just like stuff, so I follow like Graham Hancock, Atlantis, advanced civilizations, and watch lots of videos on that and all kind of stuff about histories and mythologies. And so but I mean my view on Atlantis before before YouTube was, the answer is like so obvious that y'all are gonna be like, wait a fucking minute here. But did he just say what I think he said? And so here, I'll go ahead and say it and see, maybe I'm right. You'll think that, okay? Atlantis, like Atlantic, Atlantic Ocean, so you and in Plato they said, oh, it's in the Atlantic Ocean, so Atlantis, Atlantic, a land of ice. Atlantis, a land of ice. Yeah, but I mean, I didn't think of that until later, because I'm like, between Newfoundland over there around Nova Scotia and shit, and Ireland, there's like a ridge called the Telegraph Plateau. I mean, it's been they're supposed to have laid the first intercontinental telegraph line across that ridge. There's this mountain ridge, undersea mountain ridge that's got a soft top on it that they figured they could lay the telegraph line across that ridge across the sea, and it could rest on that nice soft sandy top of the ridge instead of like creeks and crags and rocks and shit that would cut it all up and everything. So now that ridge is where the Gulf Stream, like water, like the Gulf of Mexico is like a big fucking solar heater. It's like a pond, is as the difference between a lake or a river. It's just water sitting there, but the Gulf of Mexico is not just sitting there, so it's kind of like a lake, but acts like a pond. It collects energy from the sun, and it gets warm. And then the Gulf Stream, blah blah blah, all this science about how the Gulf Stream works. But if it there's this cycle of warm water and cold water going in, and warm water coming out, goes up the East Coast, and it heads east over to Ireland at that ridge, because it's a mountain ridge. So it's hitting it and it's going, wow, it's going over there. See? So we get like Canada and the Northeast United States are like, gets really cold in the winter, you know, gets like Arctic, it gets winter. But where the Gulf Stream goes over to England and Ireland and everything, that's much further north than Canada. And well, it's further north than Canada. England's a good deal further north than that, but it doesn't get as cold up there because all that warm water wiggles its way up into the North Sea and stuff, and it provides like a La Nina effect, warming of the temperatures. Okay, so what happened during the last ice age was like the warm water on the south end of that ridge between Newfoundland and Ireland, and then the cold waters on the other side, the colder temperatures on the other side. You get like this condensation. You get like lots of rain, you get water vapor evaporating off of the south side, rising up into the air, heading north, where it's like, it's cold, it turns into little snowflakes. Now, because it gets, we went through a period of extreme cold, and see the during the ice age, it froze right across that line. The ocean, it froze right across that line. That ridge on the south side, it was not. It was not frozen. It was warm, and on the north side, it was frozen because it was cold. Then, like all this condensation coming off the south side, going to the cold north side, created lots of snow. So the snow falls on the frozen ice, and it builds up, got like miles high. There's like a cliff a few miles high along that ridge during the ice age. Well, I mean, it came and went, the ice age lasted 100,000, it lasted a long time, and sometimes was warmer than others and everything. But so then here you got these cavemen living over there in Europe, and it's like, oh shit, man, it's cold. We ain't up for all this cold, Some of them get frozen, some of them run south, but some of them go over there and they say, wait, look at over here. It's warm over here, where the Gulf Stream's, keeping the south side of that ridge is not frozen. And then you got all the animals up in the North Sea. As the North Sea and the North Atlantic are freezing, they're pushing all this wildlife south until it finds the same thing. It finds this pool of warm water. So it's like, wow, there's shit there. There's animals all over. There's all kind of sea life and all the local animals along the shore. This is the only place to survive, but hell, they can thrive there because everybody's there and everybody is eating everybody else and having new kids, and they're eating their kids, and everybody's eating everybody. And so it's like Shangri-La in the middle of, like, everywhere else is frozen, but in these spots, and even all up and down, up into the North Sea, where the Gulf Stream also warms, up into Scandinavia and Finland and shit, right? So along these melted warmer waters, there's miles of ice walls around it. See, it's like, you already got people living there before the ice age comes, because it's a great place to live. and then snow starts coming, and you're like, oh shit, like, well, what do you see when you see the like when it snows, and then the mice, they make little tunnels in the snow, right? It's like you can see the tunnels, little round tunnels, like they got nothing else they can do to make little tunnels, and they can then they go around and eat the little grass and weeds and seeds and shit that are still down on the ground or whatever. Well, it'd be the same for people. So they're like, wow, man, we got 10 feet of snow. So they're like living in the snow, and they're like, hey, it's a lot warmer inside this. It's still cold, but it's a lot warmer in here. And then they, making fire, they come up with innovative ways to stay warm, and they, I don't know how they got firewood, but it blows my theory if they can't come up with no firewood. But so I suppose surround there's lands nearby that weren't freezing because of just like California stays warm because of La Nina, or El Nino. I forget which one does the warming. But anyway, so so they're living in the snow and it gets miles, So, well, then they start, they get good at living in the snow, and then they go out and they living in the ice, and then they're living in these mile high ice, maybe they're burning oils because all the whales and shit, got to come down. That's the only place everybody can survive, So they're burning oil for warmth and for cooking, or they're eating raw. They just get real good at the cold, And then, so they live in there. They learn to do that over thousands of years, and they get good at it. Now, see, the thing is like you come out of the Ice Age, and you got places like Göbekli Tepe. And they got all these big carving stones and shit. And you're like, how in the hell did these people know that it was worth all that trouble to carve up all this rock? Without, having carved it before, It's like, well, ice is a lot easier to carve. It's you're living in the ice. You're already carved. You're cutting out caves. You're like, like when you see buildings that have been carved into stone, like ancient temples and shit like that. And it's like, well, but if you were doing it in ice first, it would be easier, right? And so they're just like, but see, these ain't educated. These people are not taught any of this. They're just like the mice. But they already been doing cave paintings, and they're good at a lot of technologies, especially around that region, around regions of France. There's some really sophisticated cavemen around there and shit, and did cave art and everything. So it's which might have been inspired just by snow itself, before it turned into an ice age, because it's just like making snow angels, or making pictures in sand, taking a stick and just drawing in the sand, the kind of things that you could do by accident and go, hey, get the right kind of mind starts thinking about it and turns it into something. So these are the people that wind up out in that ice, and over thousands of years they turned it into like, wow, man, they build some beautiful cities, because they got food all over the place. They get real good at that, and then so they got lots of time on their hands, they to play in the snow and shit, and then over time they developed this, then the whole thing, the ice age ends. Like Atlantis, it falls into the sea. See? And that's where the story's from, and then they, the leftover Atlanteans who didn't get killed in there, they start wandering other lands, and they're like, damn, man, we're building out of wood. Well, the wood rots, the wood get termites, there's always problems, it's like, man, I wish they get colder, I wish it was back like we was in the ice, because building them blocks, and we built pretty places. We learned all kind of stuff, how to make arches. They might have built a whole city of ice. Atlantis, a land of ice. and so they start like, well, wait a minute. They find some soft stone. One of them's like, wait a minute, this is like the old mythology we've heard about our ancestors up there in the ice, carving the ice. It's like, but this stuff, we can carve these rocks, like we did the ice, and then we can build buildings. So they start doing that because they already got a lesson in that, and then they graduate to harder rocks and stuff like that. And it's like that's where the whole, I mean, there's a whole lot more to the story, but this video's getting long in the tooth. See, but I thrown that out there because I ain't heard nobody else talking about it. So I'm like, okay, I'm putting that out there, and now there's lots of directions I could take this next. And I like someone to ask me a question and then I answer it. Like, that's the way I like communicating, because I got all this vast knowledge and ideas and shit, like, and it's like, it's hard to figure out which one to pluck. I ain't trying to be an expert. I ain't trying to build a brand. I ain't trying to fucking write me scripts and stuff. I mean, I would like to do all that, but I don't have time for it. And in the meanwhile, I'm just sitting here like, waiting for size. Like, well, if I just go ahead and make a video and people ask me questions and then I can answer it, and it's all just like, hey, it's not a lot of work for me. I'm not trying to get anything out of it, but start a discussion. Then maybe I can get this going. So you go ahead and give that some thought, and then you sit there and say, Bobby, that's the stupidest thing I ever fucking heard. You write that down. And then, but challenge me, say, because the ice is too cold. Might be, that could well be, it's like, and then I'll go from there. You can, that makes sense, because the woolly mammoths like cold, and the Neanderthals were up there. They were good at the cold, and they could have used the woolly mammoths to pull big blocks of ice around, because they'd been up there with the woolly mammoths for like 100,000 years and shit. So maybe one time there was like a baby woolly mammoth, the little daughter of the chief fell in love with and brought it home, and it was like, oh, look, she's got a little pet. And then when it got older, they go, hey, I bet that fucking mammoth, I bet he can pull this big piece of wood. I bet he can pull this big block of ice. And so, I mean, because I got this vision of Atlantis and a bunch of woolly mammoths and a bunch of Neanderthal fucking, then human Neanderthals, building these cities like ants, building those little, underneath, you got the little ant farm, you got the little tunnels and all that shit, and then there'll be like a plastic city on top, and that comes with the product, like, yeah, but they're actually, I mean, but see, that's what fascinates me about it, is if that's the story, then they was really just smart animals at that point. They weren't domesticated. They were self-domesticating without a destiny, without a manifest, without instructions. They were just still all on instinct, don't even know what they're doing the way we think we do. So it's just all really organic. And it just, and the whole thing is like, in my mind, there's the adventures from that origin, not just from it, during Atlantis, Hyperborea, up around the, across that ridge, between Newfoundland and Ireland, and then up around into Scotland, over around England and Scandinavia, and that somewhere up there somebody started living in the ice like that, and eventually now and then they're cut off by the ice south of them from the rest of mankind for like thousands of years. So they're just up there like, not lost, not found. They're just, up there doing their thing. Everybody else is going either dead from the ice or they're south and they're just still doing the normal hunter gathering stuff. But these guys have moved to a next level, but they don't know they've moved to a next level. They don't find out until they leave. Everybody else is the way they used to be, and they know all this cool crap. But I can do more in other videos if you challenge me. Okay, so they carved the blocks out of ice, and that inspired the future of stone carving. That makes some sense. But Atlantis is supposed to have all these other different higher technologies, and like I got answers for that too. So, but I just like to be provoked. I like somebody, say, okay, take me in that direction, challenge me in that direction, challenge me in that direction. Not to try to stump me, and I ain't trying to be the history hero or any. I ain't trying to beat Graham Hancock or none of that. I'm just like, hey, if any of this makes sense, then maybe then people start including some of this in other videos, and then I can watch and go, okay, now they're talking about what either they're disputing what I'm saying or talking about it. It becomes a thing, or I can put it, because I don't care either way, because it's just, if I'm wrong, it's a great vision to think of that being the actual case. The stories that I come up with for what they did up there in their land of ice are like, wow, man, it's like Avatar. It's just just wonderful fucking thoughts and stuff. All right, then I'm gonna let it go right there.